You know, that feeling. Staring at just like a mountain of information. It could be reports, emails, maybe a really complex business problem. And you just think, how? How do I even start to cut through all this noise? How do I find what actually matters?
Oh, absolutely. Information overload. It's almost the defining challenge, isn't it? Being able to quickly pull out the key insights, understand what they mean, and then, act on them effectively. That's what really makes the difference.
And that's exactly what we do here on The Deep Dive. We take your source material articles, reports, maybe even just rough notes, and we dig in to pull out those crucial nuggets of knowledge, those insights, basically giving you a shortcut to being properly informed.
So today we're diving into something that might seem a bit specific at first. It's an examiner's report from a big professional business qualification, the Strategic Business Leader Exam, or SBL.
Right. And before you think, oh, an exam report, how exciting, hang on a second. Because what we're really digging into here are some honestly incredibly valuable lessons. Universal stuff about strategic thinking, practical problem solving, how to communicate professionally.
Exactly. These aren't just, exam techniques. They're real-world principles that apply whether you're leading a project, prepping for a big meeting, or just trying to get your head around a complicated situation. It's practical wisdom, really.
So our source is this examiner's report from a recent SBL exam, March-June 2025. And it's just packed with observations where people did well, where they stumbled, common mistakes, effective strategies.
It's like a behind-the-scenes peek, isn't it, at what demonstrating strategic leadership actually looks like under pressure, even in a simulated scenario.
Okay, so let's set the scene a bit. This SBL exam, what is it fundamentally?
Well, it's a pretty intense 3-hour, 15-minute case study. It's designed to simulate being a strategic consultant in a real-world situation.
So you're put in a role.
Yeah, exactly. In this case, the scenario involved a fictional charity called Historic Places HP. They preserve historical sites in this made-up country, Rhodesia. And the candidate, or you, the listener, imagining yourself in this role, you're a senior consultant advising HP.
Got it. And the marking.
Yeah.
You mentioned it's not just technical stuff.
That's crucial. Okay, so there are 80 technical marks, but, and this is key, it's for the applied use of knowledge, not just repeating facts you've learned. But then there are 20 marks, a whole fifth of the total, just for professional skills.
20% for things like
clarity, how logically you present your points, using the right tone, and fundamentally, did you actually answer the specific question or task they gave you?
Wow. That breakdown itself says a lot, doesn't it? Strategic thinking isn't just knowing stuff. It's how you use it, how you communicate it.
Absolutely. And the information they give you in the exam, it really mirrors how you'd approach things in reality. There's this pre-scene information.
Background briefing.
Exactly. A document you get beforehand to understand the sector charities, in this case, and HP's background. It's just context, though. You're not meant to find direct answers in there or try to guess the questions.
Okay, so foundational knowledge. Then what?
Then, on the day, you get the critical stuff, the exhibits, 4 extra pieces of info that are the main source for your answers. For this exam, it was things like an email from the CEO about changes, a summary of how 2 sites were performing financials, visitor numbers, that sort of thing.
Stillwater and Thruworth, I think they were called.
That's them. And also some shop operating procedures and a blog post about charity fundraising.
So it's layered. Background first, then the specific current data you need to work with.
Precisely. And what's so interesting is that's exactly how you'd approach a new project or role, right? You gather the background, then you dive into the specific current details to build that full picture. It's about synthesis.
Okay, so let's dig into where things tend to go wrong. The report points out a really big one, almost the biggest blunder, right? Not actually answering the question asked. Sounds simple, but
it's fundamental, yet it was a huge recurring theme. Task 1A asked about contextual features for implementing change at HP, internal factors.
Right, the specific situation inside that organization.
Exactly. But so many candidates apparently just talked about the CEO's proposed changes, or they jumped straight to applying a generic model, like, say, Lowen's change process model.
Even though that wasn't what was needed for that specific question about context, they brought in theory without linking it or focused on the wrong thing.
Precisely. The report stresses that contextual features meant things internal to HP, its objectives, maybe the skills of the staff and volunteers, the money available, the power dynamics, like, do the trustees support this? Those were the key things, but they often got missed. Models like Belogan and Hope Haley might have been more relevant there, helping to think about how change happens in different contexts.
Okay, so misinterpreting the brief. What else? Lack of depth.
Yeah, another big one. Just stating facts or dropping in theory without connecting it wasn't enough. Marks were for applying knowledge to HP's specific situation.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Task 1C was about leadership qualities needed for the changes. Lots of answers were apparently quite generic. Good communication, being adaptable, fine qualities, but...
But they didn't explain why HP needed them specifically.
Exactly. They didn't link it back. The report mentioned that maybe qualities like persuasiveness or having a really clear strategic vision were more critical given the potential for pushback from staff or volunteers at HP. But candidates often didn't make that connection.
So it's the so what factor. Why does this point matter here?
Precisely. And it wasn't just theory. Task 2A compared the performance of those two sites, Stillwater and Thruworth.
Right, the numbers.
Yeah, but many just listed the numbers or said, this went up, this went down. Very superficial. The report really hammered the need to explain why. What were the potential underlying reasons? Maybe the figures hinted at unhappy employees at Stillwater? Or perhaps Thruworth had better marketing, and what were the implications of those differences? Not just stating the data.
Digging deeper than the surface.
Okay.
What about using the information provided? Too much, too little?
Both, actually. A bit of a double-edged sword. Some candidates didn't seem to use all the information systematically. Like in Task 2B on shop risks, some apparently missed obvious risks related to inventory, even though the details were right there in the exhibits.
So leaving valuable clues untouched.
But then, conversely, others fell into the trap of just copying and pasting chunks from the exhibits without adding any value, without developing the point.
The copy-paste problem.
Yeah. That same shop risk task, again, people might list the factors mentioned in the exhibit, but they wouldn't clearly state the actual risk or the consequence for HP. So instead of just saying, oh, there's only one volunteer on duty sometimes, the point was to state the risk that creates, maybe risk of inventory loss through theft due to inadequate staffing. See the difference?
Yeah, stating the impact. Okay, and then there were issues around professionalism and just managing the clock.
Definitely. Tone and tact were important. Task 1B involved challenging the CEO's ideas about executive pay. The skill was skepticism.
Which doesn't mean being rude.
Exactly. The report emphasized expressing concerns as professional statements, based on evidence or logic, not just fire off aggressive questions like, don't you think this is a ridiculous idea? Maintaining that professional tone, even when challenging, was key.
That's a huge lesson for pretty much any workplace scenario, isn't it? How you deliver the message.
Totally. And time management, always critical. The report explicitly suggested spending a good 30 minutes right at the start, just reading everything and planning your answers.
30 minutes just planning.
Yeah, planning how to tackle the tasks, which exhibits feed into which question. Common pitfalls were wasting time writing about irrelevant stuff, making overly detailed plans they didn't stick to, or just repeating the same point in different ways. Efficiency matters.
Okay, so we've heard the common traps. Let's flip it. What did the successful approaches look like? What are the strategies for success here?
Right, the constructive part. And again, these strategies apply way beyond just this exam. First off, that strategic reading and planning phase we just mentioned, the report really doubles down on that, spending that initial 30 minutes thoroughly analyzing all the exhibits and all the task requirements.
So really investing time up front to understand the whole picture.
Yes. It helps you see the connections. Okay, this task needs info from Exhibit 2 and Exhibit 4. Or maybe multiple tasks draw on the same exhibit. It lets you structure your answer logically and, crucially, identify the most important issues to focus on. That planning isn't just prep, it's part of the strategic process itself.
Makes sense. And then when it comes to actually writing the answers, getting those technical marks.
It boils down to showing why your point is significant for HP. It's about development. To get full marks for a single well-explained point, often up to 2 marks you generally need to. State the point clearly, evaluate its significance, use specific information from the case, explain the consequences or implications for HP, and maybe back it up with examples.
So layering the analysis. Observation, explanation, evidence, impact.
Exactly. That's what turns a simple statement into a proper, valuable insight.
And this brings us back to those professional skills marks, that crucial 20%. You said the report noted people did think about format reports, emails, etc., but the quality of the skill application varied.
Hugely. Let's take skepticism again, Task 1B, challenging the CEO's pay ideas. The best answers didn't just say, this seems high. They went further. They suggested relevant benchmarks, like compare pay to other charities, not massive commercial companies.
Using appropriate comparisons.
Right. And they considered the wider context, like, is it okay to hike director pay when employee numbers are maybe falling? They might also bring in relevant best practice, like noting that one-year contracts for directors are generally good corporate governance. It's about constructing a reasoned argument, not just disagreeing.
Okay, so reasoned evidence-based skepticism. What about analysis? That's like comparison task 2A.
There, the key was digging beneath the surface numbers. So instead of just saying, visitor numbers fell at Stillwater, the strong answers explored possible reasons. Could it be linked to the hints about unhappy staff? Or maybe through Worth's better performance wasn't luck, but down to better marketing. It's about generating hypotheses based on the data, asking why.
Moving from description to interpretation and evaluation in the shop risk task 2B.
Yeah, evaluation involved not just identifying risks, but assessing them and recommending practical actions. The report stressed clearly defining the risk, what's the actual potential harm or consequence, and then making practical recommendations.
Like your earlier example, not just bank money regularly, but
bank takings daily to minimize cash held on site. Specificity matters. The report also mentioned common missed points here, like suggesting periodic inventory checks by someone not working in the shop, or the need to review how old the inventory was, is stuff sitting there unsold for too long. Practical, operational considerations.
Got it. And the last skill mentioned was commercial acumen for task 3 on e-marketing and ethics.
Right. This wasn't just about listing digital marketing tools. The best answers showed commercial sense by explaining how specific methods, social media campaigns, maybe using influencers carefully, search engine optimization, a mobile app would actually help HP attract and retain donors for fundraising.
Connecting the tool to the objective.
Exactly. And on the ethics part, which related to a blog post exhibit, the task was to address the specific ethical concerns raised in that blog, not just copy them out and not bring in unrelated ethical issues like data hacking if it wasn't mentioned in the material. It required focused, targeted problem solving based on the provided scenario.
This is really where it clicks, isn't it? Thinking like a real consultant, providing advice that's directly relevant, actionable, and tailored to that organization's specific context and problems.
Absolutely. And if you step back, these detailed pointers, the common mistakes, the successful strategies, they're just incredibly useful for anyone, really. Anyone looking to get better at taking in information, figuring out what matters, communicating it clearly, and leading strategically. It's much bigger than just one exam.
So wrapping this up, we've done a deep dive into this examiner's report, and the core lessons seem pretty clear. Understand the precise question, apply your knowledge to the specific context, really dig into the why and the so what, and communicate it all professionally and efficiently.
Yeah, whether it's an exam hall or a boardroom, those principles hold true. This deep dive really shows that effective strategic leadership isn't just about what you know. It's that more subtle skill of interpreting information, applying it thoughtfully, and communicating it in a way that actually helps the organization move forward. It's the gap between just having data and having real insight.
So a final thought for you, our listener. What aspects of your own work, or maybe something you're learning right now, could benefit from that deeper level of analysis, that really precise application of knowledge to context? Maybe take these lessons and think about how you can make your own insights truly count.